Have you ever really stopped to think about what a check is? I mean, it's not just some piece of paper for moving money around. Nope, it's a promise. It's a story. It's a whole legal journey that kicks off the second a pen hits that paper. So let's follow that journey and find out what your signature really means when you sign on the back.
Oh, yeah, we've all done it. You got a check, you flip it over, scribble your name on the back, and you're good to go, right? Well, that simple little act is actually part of a legal process that's been around for centuries. You're not just signing off, you're passing a promise along. And in doing that, you're making a pretty big promise of your own.
So, the official legal term for this whole transfer process is negotiation. I know, it sounds super formal, but all it really means is handing over something like a check in a way that makes the next person the official, rightful owner or holder. And this is a really special kind of transfer. It's way more powerful than just passing along a regular contract. As you're about to see, it can sometimes even give the new owner better rights than the person who had it before them.
Okay, so how exactly does this promise get passed from one person to the next? Well, it's not as simple as just handing over an IOU you wrote on a napkin. The law makes a really crucial distinction here. This slide really breaks it down. Look at assignment on the right. Think of that like buying a used car. You get the car, sure, but you also inherit all of its existing problems, whatever they may be. But negotiation, over on the left, that's different. That's like getting a clean title. The new holder gets a fresh claim, sometimes even a better one than the person who gave them the check. This is basically the legal magic that makes checks so useful and, trustworthy in the first place. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. The law gives us two main ways to negotiate a check, and it really all depends on what's written on the front of it. Okay, so if a check is made out to bearer or maybe cash, it's dangerously close to being actual cash. Legally, whoever is holding it has the right to the money. Just handing it over is enough to transfer it. But if it's made out to a specific person, like pay to the order of Jane Doe, then Jane has to do two things. First, she has to sign her name on the back, that's called an endorsement, and she has to physically hand it over. Both of those steps are absolutely essential. You know that signature on the back, the endorsement? That's where the real story is. It's not just a signature, it's an instruction. And you can actually write that instruction in a few different ways, and each one has a completely different effect on where that check is going next. So let's take a look at the four main types of endorsements you can make. Each one tells a totally different story and sends that check on a very different path. First up, we've got the one we all do almost every time. The endorsement in blank. You just sign your name. That's it. But in that single moment, you've completely changed the check's legal status. And here's why that's a bit risky. By endorsing a check in blank, you've just turned it into what the law calls a bearer instrument. So if you lose it on the way to the bank, whoever finds it can legally cash it. It's super convenient, for sure, but definitely risky. So how do you add a layer of security? Well, you use an endorsement in full, which is also known as a special endorsement. With this one, you're not just signing, you're giving a direct command about who gets the money next. Right, so for example, if Bob signs the back and writes pay to Carol, he has specifically named the next rightful holder. Now, Carol is the only person who can endorse it and pass it on again. This is so much safer than a blank endorsement, especially if you're, say, mailing a check or giving it to someone else to deposit for you. But what if you want to be even more specific and limit what can be done with the check? That's where a restrictive endorsement comes in. This thing acts like a set of instructions that basically stops the check from being freely passed around. Writing for deposit only along with your signature is the perfect example of this. You're telling the bank, hey, this check can only be deposited into my account. It can't be cashed, it can't be signed over to someone else. You're basically restricting its journey to one single safe destination. Okay, now for a more unusual one, the conditional endorsement. You can think of this as putting a big if statement on your check. The payment itself is completely tied to a specific condition being met. So in this case, the check is only valid if C reaches the age of 21. The payment itself hinges entirely on that future event, which makes the check's journey totally uncertain. So far, we've pretty much assumed a best-case scenario, an honest journey. But what happens when things go wrong? What about when a check gets lost or stolen, or its signature is forged? Well, the rules here are really designed to protect the true owner. I mean, this is a situation we all dread, right? You've got a check in your wallet, and then suddenly, it's gone. So does the person who finds it, or even steals it, get to just keep the money? Well, generally the answer is no. A thief or a finder doesn't get legal ownership. The true owner can always claim it back. But, and this is a huge but, there's a massive exception. It happens if you signed it with that risky endorsement in blank we talked about, turning it into a bearer instrument. In that case, a thief actually can pass good title to an innocent person who takes it without knowing any better. This is hands down the single biggest reason you should never ever sign a check until you're standing right at the bank counter.
Okay, but what about forgery? That's an even more serious crime. If someone forges your endorsement on a check that was made out to you and manages to cash it, what happens then? The law is crystal clear on this one. A forged signature is a legal nullity. It's like it never even happened. It doesn't transfer the check to anyone, period. The chain of legitimate ownership is broken right there, at the point of the forgery, and the true owner still has every right to that money. So when a check is dishonored, which just means the bank refuses to pay it, who's on the hook? Well, it turns out that every single person who touches that check becomes part of a chain of liability. Let's break down who's responsible for what. First, you've got the drawer. That's the person who wrote the check. They're on the hook if the bank doesn't pay. Then there's the bank itself, the drawee. They're liable to the drawer if they refuse to pay when there are plenty of funds. But here's the part that really affects you, the endorser. By signing the back of that check, you are personally guaranteeing payment to every single person who holds that check after you. You literally become a link in a chain of financial responsibility. So you see, a check is never just a check. It's a story of legal promises, it's a chain of responsibility, and it's a whole series of risks, which of course leads to one final thought. Now that you know everything that a signature implies, and you understand the real dangers of forgery and theft, does accepting a check from someone you don't know still seem like such a simple transaction?